Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of A Second Chance Stories of Young Offenders. We're your hosts, Calista Lynn.
And Akshar Keshri. And today we've got yet another distinguished guest for all of you today. We're excited to introduce you to someone who was formerly incarcerated, but is now completely changing the lives of today's incarcerated youth. Please welcome Edwin Paragas. Hi, Edwin.
Hi,
It's so nice to meet you. How are you?
hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor, and you guys watching you guys are so empowering and inspired by all the stuff you guys are doing.
Thank you so
That's
much.
our
We're
hope.
honored that you're
Thank you.
here. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we should start from the beginning. So could you tell us a little bit about your story in being incarcerated? Things like how'd you get there and what were the different steps leading up to the trial, etc.
Yeah, you know, just a few steps back before the trial, I was born in the Philippines, and at age 10, the volcano erupted in the Philippines. So we were this we were moved to America. We were evacuated when I was about to turn 11, and like none of us was expecting it. It was really forced, and we didn't really want to, but since my dad was in the Air Force, he had to go. So not knowing, not really being set and really having a foundation in America, we were sent in America at age 11. And that time it was we adapted really poorly, and we were already having an adverse. I was already having an adverse childhood, a lot of turmoil, and my mom divorced the first year we were in the United States. They coped differently when we came to the United States, being immigrants and not really knowing what's going on. And I met people, that spoke like me, saw the world like me, and really saw me and embraced me as Edwin, because I was getting really bullied the first year, not knowing the language, not really knowing. So yeah, and I looked at them as like my peers, and my first week I hanged around with them. I didn't know one of the guys had a gun in a car, and when we got pulled over, he put a gun under my seat since I was the youngest. I was 12 years old, and that probably set the course of my thinking errors, my behavior, my criminal lifestyle, because juvenile hall was probably the worst experience I ever experienced in my life. That sent me to the way I saw the world and the way I cope with the world at 12 years old. So yeah, at 12 years old, I was there. I didn't speak English, and LA, Los Angeles was is I didn't really know about gangs because I just came in the United States. And at that time in the 90s, the Asians, they call it the green light. So any Hispanics that see an Asian in juvenile hall, they automatically attack them because they think that we're all from Asian gang. And one thing I learned in juvenile hall is might is right. Like if you fight back, if violence speaks louder in juvenile hall, and you need to be in some set of groups. And as soon as I got out, I didn't want to experience that again. And that's when I reached out to the same peers. I thought that even though they set me up, I thought that they were going to be the ones going to be protecting me. And I joined the gang at 12 years old. And that lifestyle over and over, like I really embraced my identity as a gang member. I really embraced the lifestyle I was living. I became addicted to substances. I became addicted to the criminality, yeah, the fame, the validation I was getting from my gang, and over, I was really trying to prove myself to them that I belong to them and that my love is worth it, and in an unhealthy way. And at age 16, I committed a heinous act. At age 16, I shot and killed a 17-year-old uh, youth. And to this day, I regret it. And at age 16, I was sent to actually I was it my trial only lasted, not even a trial, my court process only lasted 3 months. And at age 16, the week I turned 17, I was sent to adult prison. They have a thing over here for California Youth Authority. They send the youth to like a little juvenile prison. But that year they changed the law. They call it super predators. So they're not sending people that commit a violent offense to prison to California Youth Authority. They're sending them straight to prison. So the week I turned 17, I was sent to a maximum security prison in California. And I remember the first the first cellie, the first roommate I had is he was a older gentleman. He said, "Kid, you're gonna die in prison. Do everything you can to make a name out of yourself." And that's what I did. And I thought that that's the way I latched on to my gang behavior. I latched on to I need to belong to something that for them to protect me. And once again, I latched on to, oh, these guys is the ones going to protect me. These guys are the ones that love me. And for the first 15 years of my sentence, I I conformed to prison lifestyle. I did all the criminal stuff. I did all the stuff I need to do. I raised my hand to assault more people, and that's what I did. And finally, around 10 to 15 year of my sentence, I remember my mom telling me, I visit you every month, no matter where you're at, California, but you're not trying to go home. And that really hit me. It's like, wow, like my family been there, and I didn't realize that. And I was really tired of all the burdens and all the baggage I was carrying. I didn't want this lifestyle no more. So that's when I changed my life. I changed my life for my mom. So that's the gist of my prison story really.
That that was a lot to take in,
I'm
starting from
sorry.
your story. No, 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 no. We're so glad you're opening up. That was a lot to take in from the Philippines to the situation when you were 12 to 16 to 17. But overall, I can probably guess the answer to this, but can you go more in depth about how your mental health was during this whole time, especially during serving your time in jail?
Yeah. First and foremost is because of my trauma and because of all the stuff I went through, and I was really apathetic. I lost my sense of empathy towards another human beings. My needs was really was more upfront than any of other people's needs. That's why it's so easily for me to commit so much harm to other people. But at that time, I was full of at already at 16, I was already into the third year of my addiction to speed. I was really into meth. And when I was inside prison, I actually blamed the speed part, like, hey, if I didn't do the speed, I won't take another life. So I said, all right, I'm not going to do no more speed. But one addiction to another, I started really drinking inside the prison. And not only that, I was really entrenched to the criminality and the high risk behavior in prison. So I was really like addicted to that lifestyle too. But mental health part, I was depressed. I was so numb. I was really I just got tired of being scared when I was in prison. Like the first couple of years, 16, 17-year-old, everybody's telling me this and I had to do this and I had to do that. It was really scary. And it got to a point where I just became so numb and that's how I adapted it. But mental health, I was not in my best version of myself.
Mm-hmm. Um, that's that's horrible to hear, and losing your empathy and apathy. Overall, would you say the justice system wronged you
Um,
in the sense that, you weren't treated like a human being, would you say, in prison?
yeah. I just want to note too that I definitely, for my action, I had to always be held accountable. Accountability and
Yes.
responsibility. It's definitely, but the system definitely failed me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Starting from not only from the day I committed my crime at 16, my life crime, but at age 12, and at that moment they treated us as they call us. They're literally labeled super predator, like we're unsavable. It was
Oh
totally,
no.
yeah, it was totally punitive. Like the more we punish you as hard as we can, and that's how you're gonna change. But with my lifestyle, with the way I grew up, being punished is actually, it's actually normal to me because being poor, being hungry, being in a third world country, that's like familiar with me. So the more they try to punish me, the more they try to dehumanize me, the more I actually use my unhealthy coping skills and then fight back, and the way they dehumanize us in prison, the first thing they said is like, don't remember nothing else but your CDC number. My number is K69827. If you ever forget that, then you have no identity, and that's what they tell us inside. And then my first day inside adult jail, the correction officers, oh, you're that young guy, because they all know I was 16, and they know what was going on, and they try to throw me in adult with another race with a bunch of adult men, and I really thought I was really going to get sexualized and raped and stuff like that. Luckily, there's another older gentleman that says no, do not touch this kid, and that's the stuff that play around me, and that's the stuff that instead of trying to think about remorse and think about transformation, all I think about is just that trying to stay alive. And that part right there, the punitive part, it doesn't work. It just made me more colder than I was when I came in.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how terrifying that was. That sounds so scary. And I can definitely see that like your perceptions of life have changed drastically because of your experiences. I mean, I feel like so many other people are also going through like horrible things in prison and like have been in similar situations as you or have similar experiences as you. So what advice would you give to today's incarcerated individuals about prioritizing mental health?
Yeah. For me, my mental health is based on the healing part, right? And I believe that pain not transformed is transmitted. So that's why, just a little background, what I do is I'm the first time in Los Angeles is people that's formerly incarcerated, we're called as criminal messers, and we get to go inside juvenile halls and work 40-hour shift a week with the youth inside juvenile hall. Imagine with my background and my peers get to go inside juvenile hall and trying to mentor the youth. And that's what we're trying to hone in with this youth. It's not about all the, not just the therapists or the skills that they need. It's really the healing component. It's because a lot of these youth, a lot of these incarcerated people has causative factors to why they committed to what they commit. What is those causative factors? Right? What is it that made them behave the way they behave and choose the way they chose? And it's all stems on the way they were thinking, the way, like you said, the mental health department, right? So we try to really go back a few steps and work with them through their trauma, through their childhood, and just build from it and see a different narrative of how worthy they are. Because a lot of these incarcerated people, because I also go inside prison and teach restorative justice and victim impact. And when I teach them is it's no matter what, you're worthy. And you have to change that narrative that you have a lot of love, self-compassion towards yourself. You just got to use them. And a lot of that stuff it's the core, the they do everything they can because of the way they see life and the way they their state of mind is.
I mean, it seems like you've definitely you've gotten a lot of different lessons from your experiences everywhere. I know you did work at Healing Dialogue, Boundless Freedom Project, Transformative in Prison Workshop, and way more.
Yes.
And I know you've gotten commendations, awards, etc. Can you elaborate further on more of the valuable lessons you've drawn from overall in your experience in the justice system, starting from when you were a kid all the way till now?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons I actually learned from is actually folks like you guys, and seeing us as human beings, right?
Yes.
And the first 15 years, I was in the maximum security. There was nobody coming in. We had A and NA. That was probably the only self-help group they have there. Then things started to shift when they started to really focus on community-based organization, mental health, wellness, and stuff like that. So they started having groups. So when volunteers came and look at us the way they look at us as human beings, that for me really, really put a light on myself. If you can look at me as a human being, then maybe I can start looking at myself as a human being. Probably that's the biggest lesson. And once I still really started tapping in as being a human being, then I started recognizing that dang, that I'm suffering, that acknowledging that I am suffering. When I started to really digest what suffering is and the trauma that happened to me, I started seeing other people's suffering. And that's when the empathy cultivates. So when I started really understand what suffering and what pain and what child abuse is and what I went through, I started to really see other people's suffering. And that's how I connect. I can connect with anybody. I connect with with incarcerated folks. I can connect with correction officers. I can connect with judges, and that's why I'm so well in this type of work, because I see person as a human being, and that's probably the biggest lessons that I can really give to folks inside, is to really understand your root of suffering and to really feel it, and that will cultivate compassion and empathy towards other folks, and that's really what us as society really needs. It's just to look at each other as one, as one community.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings.
Yeah. And from what you're saying, it seems like you know a lot about this, I guess, in this field, and it's really inspiring to see you passing along your knowledge with these other people and, really having that motivation to do so. While we're still talking about mental health, how would you characterize yourself after being released from prison? Did you change? What changed about you, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is, I mean, I took a lot of self-help classes. So whatever that's, like my healing journey is lifelong. So having coping skills and having ways to, when I'm activated and triggered, and to really cope with it and look at it in a compassionate and loving way, and that really helps. Because when I got out, yes, it was, I did all the work, I healed, but there were so many things was going on. Just a little story of what happened to me when I got out. I was invited to open up a transition home, for reentry of the folks that are coming out to go to transition home. And the first thing, the person that runs the transition home said, "I just want to warn you, there's a lot of people in the street knows about this home, and they have signs in all the windows. They have a protest right from the house because they don't want you guys there. And the sign says, we have kids here. We don't want inmates here. Send them back to prisons and stuff like that." And so that one right there is just probably the one of the things that I really have a hard time dealing with, is the fact that I, for many years, I felt like a monster. I felt like I'm redeemable, unforgivable, because what I did, that should be labeled for me the rest of my life. And that right, that moment is like, dang, no matter what I do, no matter what transformation, no matter my spiritual practice, I'm still going to be looked at as a monster. But luckily, because I have such a support community, such folks that I can lean to, I also have the fact that I was able to go back to my childhood, to really digest of what I have done and what happened to me, and show compassion, change the narrative. I was able to confront whatever's in front of me and then approach it in a much healthier and loving way. I think that's probably the biggest skills I have. It's really, I really dug deep of my past, and of my past action and what I have done, and the cause of effect of my harms and the harm done to me.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is it really goes to show just how important our mission is to, I guess, just explain the misunderstandings that surround delinquency. But based on your experience, how would you describe or explain the stigma, surrounding incarceration today, especially with juvenile incarceration?
Yeah, the juvenile incarceration right now is one of the policy that I really like want to uplift in LA County, is the fact that they're not sending kids to prisons no more, right? Before, when I in the 90s, they were giving us life sentences, you know. And right now in Los Angeles, if you commit an action like I have, they're giving them back to juvenile life days. So they're up to 25. Because my understanding, my really feel is like, you don't have to sentence that you decades after decades for them to really get it, to really grasp that that the way they can transform, the way they can heal, the way they can come out in a redemption way. It don't have to be decades. You just in the need a bunch of community members really being there supportive, you know. And the juvenile system, for what I first experienced, is just they treat us like we're adults. They treat us like, most of us don't know any better. Yes, we had choices, but our brain was not fully developed enough to really grasp the consequences of what we were doing. We're always trying to rationalize, minimize, justify a lot of the things because of what we've seen growing up. So when we're in juvenile hall, instead of just saying that, you know what, they call it just dessert. Whatever you did, you throw away the keys. That's not helpful, because a lot of these youth, they still have so much potential. We're most accessible to more changes when we commit our crime when we're young, just because our brain is not fully developed. And knowing that, and knowing that we take away the substance abuse and the unhealthy environment, we put them in a much more um mental health wellness environment, is a really transformative way and more compassionate way to dealing with juveniles incarcerated. Because honestly, we're not, a lot of the youth I work with every single day, their intention is to change, but sometimes they just don't know how, because our brain is not, it's not really fully developed. And that's why we have to be more compassionate and more patient to how we approach juvenile justice.
I know brain, yeah, based on what you're saying, I know brain's fully developed, I think 21 or 25 or something.
25, yeah,
So,
25.
yeah. Can you share a specific success story that you've worked with a juvenile, or a particularly, I would say, impactful moment from your work with an incarcerated youth or an individual?
Yeah, wow, where can I where can I really uh really start? There's so many, like in my field, you know. Uh just this Tuesday, and one of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm bringing a survivor of, she lost her son to gun violence, and
Oh,
she's we're gonna accompany her, we're gonna take her out, and this is how advanced the youth that we've been working with, they're actually volunteer. Hey, what can I do to accompany them? What can I do to uplift her life? What can I do to be supportive? I mean, yes, we could say like, yeah, they didn't go back to doing a hole, whatever, but that right there shows me success, just for the fact that, you know what, he's this person is showing compassion, this first person is showing empathy. Because if you can practice that, that's when I know that he's going to take a pause before he committed any type of action. Even though, even though the youth, some of them take a step back. I have another youth that got out, and he was walking to his aunt house and got shot. And so I was sitting with him in the hospital, and while in the bullet, and instead of calling his dad, when he didn't really have a strong relationship, he called me. So knowing that, even though tragic things happen, but he's reaching out to a support group, that's a success. That's when he's replacing his old culture, his old support group, knowing that he can lean on other people. So there's other stuff like that. And I have another youth that was accepted to Berkeley, University of
oh
California,
wow,
Berkeley.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
that's awesome.
while he was in juvenile hall going to school. So
That's
yes,
amazing.
there's so many lives that we can uplift, and but
Yeah, brilliant minds.
yes, and if they can just focus on one thing and nurture them and nourish them, I'm telling you, this youth will come out in way more than we will ever give them credit for.
I think it's pretty clear that you are the youth's role model and that your mom was your role model. So who do you think, like, what would you what would your advice be, sorry, to today's youth about finding a role model if maybe they feel lost or misguided
Yeah,
in today's society?
yeah. I remember long ago somebody asked me, it's like, you live the same neighborhood as some people, and even other people live the same culture, same neighborhood, same environment, same lifestyle. But why is some people can get out of the neighborhoods, can get out of the environment that we're living in, even get out of the abusive home? And I always go back to the and what I realized, I always go back to the protective factor. There's always that one person that will always, what you can always lean on. It could be a grandma, it could be an uncle, it could be a mom, it could be a sister. That one person that believes in you. So I think that's the biggest thing. Is just knowing that this person unconditionally will hold you accountable, but will no matter what, non-judgmental, no matter what I done, what you do. And that's the protective factor that that people needs to really just be aware of. And we're all around. And each youth just is us all around. We just gotta really see that, oh my gosh. Because one of the things in juvenile hall, when we first started doing our program, nobody really talked to us the first couple of months. Like, who is this people? Like, whatever, But we kept coming and coming and coming. We were consistent. When we sit there, we're high. We're like, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna sit with you while you're intoxicated. But I'll come back tomorrow and talk to you because you're not in a state of mind. And at first they were like, whatever, we're a bunch of weirdos, a bunch of old guys coming from prison and telling us what to do. No, but in time they showed that, oh my God, this person is going to be there no matter what. This person really looks at me in a way that I wish they were getting looked at growing up. So that protective factor it's all around. We just got to really see who's the ones to be consistent and who's really there, what's best for them.
That's amazing and so inspiring. And having a role model is very important. But I know
Yes.
there are various changes that must be made to the justice system. So overall, I know you played a pretty big role in changing these people's lives. I wish you the bestest of luck on your journey. And I just wanted to personally thank you for your work because I'm sure you've made such a huge impact. And our biggest thank yous for speaking on our podcast and sharing your valuable insights. Your journey is literally the embodiment of what we should be and our message on this podcast, being heroes and a positive influence in society. Do you have any last final words you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, I just no, I just want to throw the same flowers at you guys. You like I really believe, throughout eons and eons, our ancestors is storytelling is probably the one way we can
Yes.
reach people and move people and to mobilize people. And for what you guys are doing to uplifting lives, especially in this field that we're so misunderstood. I think I just want to say that you guys are so powerful and really inspiring, and so how young you guys is just like it fuels me up to like keep going what I'm doing. Like sometimes it's really defeating for what we do, but seeing our next generation is such a nourishing to our soul.
Oh, thank you
That's so
so much.
sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Um, yeah, we're just honored that you came onto our podcast and, talked about your experience because, um, what I found through like whatever, like everything that you said was really wise, I guess is the right term for it. And yeah, I just gained 3 brain cells from this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank
It,
you so
yeah,
much.
what you said, like your experience is literally like why we do what we do. Um, but yeah.
Yeah.
To the listeners, thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of Second Chance Stories of Young Offenders.
Until next time, remember that your story is still being written and that there's always hope for a brighter future.
See you guys next time.
Bye.